Hello, great metal debate listeners. This is Gomthog, and do we have a treat for you today? We have an interview with the one, the only Sean Peck from Cage and Death Dealer. My friend Brian was lucky enough to snag an interview with Sean the other evening, and he had a lot to say. We'll get right to it. So here it is, our interview with classic metal vocalist Sean Peck.
Well, tonight we have the Hell Destroyer himself, Mr. Sean Peck of Cage and Death Dealer fame. Sean, welcome to the Great Metal Debate Podcast. Very cool of you to join us. We're huge fans, and that's a literal statement, not just blowing smoke up your butt statement. So let's just jump right in if we can.
Cool, man. It's thanks for having me, and let's do it. I always like talking about myself.
Yeah, it's our favorite topic. Listen, I want to start with something. I heard you say in an interview that the first scream that you had off Supremacy and Bloodsteel in particular, that you were sitting in a chair and it was your first take, and you had virtually no effects to it. Is that true?
Is that on, you mean the Death Dealer one?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's on Supremacy. That first scream off Supremacy.
Oh,
sorry.
On Bloodsteel? Yes,
off Bloodsteel.
Boy, I have to remember. I know we had talked about that on the Death Dealer intro to the song Death Dealer, but I'm kind of remember back to Bloodsteel one, because I did I did that black metal screech at the beginning of that.
It was impressive.
I always put some delay on, but I don't ever. There's no pitch corrector or auto tune or any of that stuff. I worked with a producer one time on the Hell Destroyer record, and he was wanted to go in and try and pitch correct some of the side. I go, don't ever pull that plug in out again. Do not ever try and augment anything, even if it's a little off. You got to hear the reality of it. So I'm usually sitting in this chair right here that you see me in, and I record most of the album sitting down, which is really weird. It's just because I'm operating the unit myself. So I had Ross the Boss in here, and we were doing some demos together, and he's like, "Man, you're singing all that sitting down," and I'm like, "I guess that's a big deal," but but it's just you just go for it.
It's pretty damn impressive. I personally think you have crotch gnomes that grab you by the testicles when you have to hit those high notes. That's humanly impossible. It seems like it's very impressive.
It's taken a while to perfect the technique or whatever. I'm still getting better, man. I'm just the last Sunday we had practice, and man, I had these killer falsetto frickin' screams going better than I ever have in my life, I think. So I think I'm still kind of slowly climbing, still gaining more and more power as I go along. I haven't hit the downslide in my career yet, knock on wood.
Well, that's cool. It doesn't come off as falsetto. It comes off as very natural, which is hard to do with that kind of register.
Yeah, there's a mixture. I mix a lot of it together. I mix the falsetto and the head voice and the chest voice. So it's a trip, man. It's I've got all my different little my techniques. I'm still experimenting with some new ones, and I've got the new Death Dealer record and the new Cage record coming up, and there's even new voices that I've never used before on those records.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. Listen, when did you know that your voice and your ability to do those things you're talking, when did you know it wasn't just a gimmick, that it could be like an actual vocal style, that you could do it and do it well and do it talented?
I started, when I got into metal really late, kind of like junior year in high school, and all my friends were already fully all about it. And I was, I had all the posters on my walls. I was running around my bedroom air, singing, if you want to call it, instead of air guitar, you're like air.
Right.
And so then and I was kind of like the class clown guy, and I'd do impersonations and stuff. And so started trying to emulate some of the songs. And then as I, learned that I could kind of come close to it, then, being when I got into my first band in college, it was a lot more difficult actually being in a band and singing that stuff than it was, just doing it in your bedroom. And
was that Nomad or another?
Well, it was in a cover band first called Tax Evasion, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's great. The thing about that is, those cover bands, man, you're singing 50 songs a night, and it is
wow.
that's pretty hard. It's so tact, and we're singing, we were mixing in a lot of metal with the Louie college cover scene, and then I got into Nomad, and yeah, then I really had to perfect my technique, and the key to me is like getting, the key to success is having your own tone and your own sound where they hear like Sting or Ozzy, like right when that guy talks, you know that it's him. And I think I've been able to develop that, like right when, they put on a song, they can recognize my tone. I don't think I sound like a lot of, Halloween clones, as they say. So
No.
I've been blessed with having my own kind of sound and my own style.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Along those lines of just knowing that you're going to be able to do this, did you have sort of an epiphany moment that you realized that I don't want to say a religious experience, but a spiritual experience when you were like, this is it, this is what I want to do. It's when you understood that this is going to be your life.
Well, I mean, it's metal becomes your frickin' in your blood, man. It is like a disease. It will not, I'm still, in into my 40s, and I'm about to go on tour, across Eastern Europe in leaving on Thursday. So it's yeah, it's definitely, it's a passion. Like, even the people like you that I do interviews with, that have their podcasts and have their internet radio shows, man. I mean, that aren't even in bands. I mean, we're just so all about it. What's not to love about it? I grew up as a little comic book, Dungeons and Dragons geek, and it embodies all that killer, superpowers. I always wanted to be a superhero, so I guess this is my way of dressing up like a freaking, Klingon emperor and going on stage and, wailing into the mic and making all the faces and acting like I'm commanding the Starfleet. But back in the day, you'd go to a Judas Priest concert or Maiden concert, and Dickinson or Halford pointed at you. There was no joking around, man. You were convicted, and you were just like fists in the air, like, yes, man, I'll follow you into battle. And that positive aggression, that emotion that heavy metal brings, different music brings different emotions, and the emotion that heavy metal, gets out of us is that addictive thing. And then being able to be on stage now and perform and actually create it is another thing. And then actually being the singer and having it emanate from your physical body is just like the pinnacle of that whole feeling. And it's, I always compare it to actors, and actors go on the set and they're like, cut, they go back to the trailer, they don't get the roar of the crowd, they don't get that instant the only thing that I think is close is like, a big politician that says his line and the crowd cheers. And I can see that's why, all actors want to be rock stars, and some rock stars want to be actors. But being the rock star is much, much more satisfying.
Cool. The pointee becomes the pointer at some point. Yeah. Now, you do have that iconic voice. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And people come to expect that. How do you as a band, or you in particular as an artist, balance putting out music that the fans like and they love versus progressing as an artist versus changing your style?
From Cage, we've always been lucky. We've always seemed to have kept, based on the reviews and record sales, like we kept climbing the ladder, which is really, you can't say that about, I can't even think of any band. Like our first album, best new band of the year on Rock Hard. Second album, was number 2 on the sound check on Heavy Magazine. Third album, Darker Than Black, number 1 sound check, sold a ton. Then came, how are you going to top Darker Than Black? Then it was Hell Destroyer, which sold amazingly and was even higher on the sound checks and reviewed. And then well, there's no way we can do that. Then we implemented a new drummer, got a little faster and thrashier on Science of Annihilation, which is still probably my favorite. And then, Supremacy of Steel was number 1 on Heavy Magazine in Germany and number 2 on Rock Hard, which is our highest rating. So we've kept going up, and now we've done 2 straightforward Cage records. This new one is a concept record, and it's probably going to be a little more. It's gonna be a grower, I think. And I could be wrong about this because a lot of the songs are really catchy, but it's a fine line to grow, quote, versus just making killer metal that they want to hear. And I'm not really sold on the growing. I'm into like progressing from the idea standpoint, and always trying to come up with some new intellectual conceptual idea. Because I go off the goosebump factor. We write a song, and man, if I'm listening to it and I get the goosebumps, I know that it's going to be something that the kids are going to want to rush to the front of the stage and
Cool.
bang their head for an hour. So that's my barometer.
Very cool. Now, metal's kind of blown up lately, and all the shrapnel comes in different sizes and shapes. You've got power, death, melodic death, thrash, deathcore, applecore, ground chuck, whatever you call it. Vocals have done the same thing. You got normal vocals, the heavy gravel vocals, growlers, screamers, even operatic. Here's my question and all that. Where do you see metal vocals heading? And in particular, where do you see your vocals heading?
Well, man, I'm doing black metal. I'm doing the Danny Filth. I'm doing the frickin' 6 Feet Under voice. I don't know who does more voices than me on a record. I'd like to find them. I'm doing the power metal, the Dickinson, the Dio, the King Diamond, the Halford. I mean, I got,
Right.
you listen to a Cage record, I'm throwing them all in there. So, I'm one of the things I haven't done a lot of is just like really, soft singing, and that's like harder for me to do than all the power stuff. So I've thrown in a couple of little soft little parts that have some more emotion, because that's just an area I haven't gone yet. The only thing I have a problem with the death metal vocals is like part of the power of music not only is the music, but it's also the lyrics. And when you can't, they go, this song is called Death and Destruction, and that's the only thing you understand the whole freaking way through.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you're reading the lyric sheet, you're kind of like constraining yourself for the the seriousness of the delivery. And so I don't know where vocals are going to go, but I like where I'm at, and I'm trying to make it even crazier than it was before.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me take a moment to just kiss ass here for a minute. As a personal fan, I'm always amazed that you have the range that you have, and you do it all on key. There are people that try and attempt a lot of the things that you do, but they just don't quite get down there or up there. And so that's one of the things that I appreciate in particular about your music.
Cool.
Let me ask you. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's nice that you say I sing in key. That's very that's encouraging.
Well, if you could call it on key, you sing great metal on tune. How about that?
Yeah, man. It's just, and you got to have, I'm always for the hook and the melody, and it's got to be melodic. It's got to be powerful, and like I said, it's got to be. I grew up from the Halford Dickinson school, and that's where I gravitate to, and it was always. No matter what I'm singing about, it's got so much conviction that it's believable, and some topics that people would consider completely ridiculously cheesy, just come across. I've got a lot of that in the reviews. Come across as like hell yeah, but I have not still. I still to this day have not used the word dragon in any song that I've written.
Oh man, got to work that in. Let me ask you this: are there different vocal skills needed for Cage versus Death Dealer? Is it a different set of things you bring to the table?
Not really. I think the recording, on Cage, I'm layering a lot more vocals. That Death Dealer, we try and stick with just one vocal line. That makes it sound a little different. Cage, I'm freaking throwing so many layers in there just because I think it's fun, and most of the time it sounds cool. Some of the times it might be a little much, but and I'm not layering it in there to cover up some sort of weakness or something. It's just because I get going and I'm like, how would this voice sound in there too? So,
Yeah.
That would be the main, one of the things that definitely sets it apart. But the Death Dealer stuff is tuned up half a step higher, so it does make my voice sound a little different too. And I didn't ever think that was going to be really much of a challenge, but the Death Dealer stuff's definitely challenging to sing live. But so far so good on that.
You better get ready. Coming up next week, right?
Yeah, man.
Cool. Well, let me ask you this. And on this question, I'm not interested in details or dirt. We'll leave that to the National Choir. But there are obviously differences in a band. Different band members bring different things to the table. How do you handle that? And there's obviously going to be conflict at some point, but how do you handle all the different visions that come to the table in the writing process?
The most important commodity, and I was going to start an 800 number for band psychologists, because I mean, it doesn't matter how cool everybody is. There's always band drama, man. It's just in relationships. So the most important commodity though is enthusiasm, and I have this thing that's like, in a band, everyone's going to have a weakness. It's going to be, one guy's going to be like, he's got money, he's got gear, he plays great, he sounds great, but he's a drunk idiot. The next one is going to be, everything's great, but he doesn't move around stage. I was like the perfect band member, except I was fat. That was my only weak.
Oh, that's harsh on yourself, dude.
Yeah. So, but I lost. I'm still, I need to lose some more, but I lost 45 pounds. So I'm not quite. So I'm almost becoming the perfect band member because I bust my ass. I write good stuff. I perform good. Blah blah blah. So that's always a funny thing. You can just pick each guy out. One guy's going to have a weakness in different areas. It's like building a D&D character, your statistics and stuff. And but as far as writing goes, it was interesting with Cage, we've always had no problem writing. Dave and I, we make our jokes back, and we're like two brothers. We're always, attacking each other and arguing and for the betterment of the song, and proof's been in the pudding. But Death Dealer was a different thing because I was writing with Mike Davis and Ross, the boss, who I didn't really know any of those guys, and I'm pretty. Stu and I had a great track record of writing stuff together, but writing with these other guys, I never had I'm like, what happens when I disagree with Ross, the boss, and I think it should be this way, and he thinks it should be that way. Ross has got, his freaking pedigree is, you can't really argue with him, and I had to learn more about Ross. I wasn't really a big Manowar fan, and so I didn't really quite know, why I should respect him and his accomplishments, but I've learned since then, just how incredible of a legacy that the guy actually has. And so, but we never ran into, is amazing. And we're, we almost have the second album done now. We still have not gone like, dude, no, it needs to be like this. So we haven't had that butting of heads. But I think, the cool thing about Death Dealer is Ross is just so into it. I'm tickled pink about it because I know that's a gay saying, but but I'm just like,
as long as you're not wearing pink, we're good.
Right, he's so into Death Dealer and he just loves the music, and it's just like it's so cool to have him enthusiastic about it, and all the guys are, and that definitely helps with the band. You don't want to have the negative guy. We're in this for fun. This is for, to live the rock and roll adventure and, destroy the planet. And you don't ever want any guy like, that's why we got rid of these last Cage guys, because they're a bunch of complainers, and we're like, next, we want people that are fully enthusiastic. And this new Cage lineup I got is probably my favorite lineup I've ever had.
Do you know when it's reached that point? Do you try to hold on to it, or you go, this just screw this, they're gonna have to go?
My personality is I always try and hold on and try and mediate and everything, but man, like some of the Cage people that we, the personnel we've gone through, man, I've just gone like, okay, divorce time, and we just went through this kind of with Rhino and Death Dealer, and he had a big family thing, and he had to move on with his life, and I knew that it was probably the right move, and the rest of the guys were really worried about it, and everything worked out for the best for all parties in that situation.
Cool. You ever just have to take one for the team and put a song on that you really don't want to do, or play it in concert?
I'm not big on that, man. I'm not big on like this song, So I'm like, cool. Normally what I do is we just keep reworking the song until it's not in the take one for the team category, like
yeah.
I can think of the song Christ Hammer off Hell Destroyer. I mean, there was like 10 versions of that thing. They were just completely not even close to what the final song was, where we thought like, yeah, it's done, and I'm just like, it's just not good enough, you know. And I'm always a hypochondriac when it comes to this music. Like I'm tripping out right now on the new Cage album and the Death Dealer album. Like, is it as good as, you know, War Master, you know, or Hell Destroyer? And I'm always you know, not very confident. Everybody else is the complete opposite of, you know, all the other interviews I hear. Like, oh man, this new album is the best, and man, it's gonna be.
Right.
And I just go into every album like, oh, there's no way we're gonna top the last one, man. There's no way. So, yeah, sometimes you listen back to your old stuff, and you're just going, I can't believe we freaking wrote that song, you know.
Well, you know, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was going to say there's that creative tension again. You know, some of the best art in the world's come from conflict. You know, and a lot of people have solo projects, side projects, or a second band. How do you handle those two bands? I mean, especially with stuff like what you're talking about right now, you know, working through songs, and you're doing that at the same time with Cage and Death Dealer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really had to do that before, so it's a new deal. You know, we got two albums that are going to come out pretty close to each other. You know, it was easy this time around because the Cage album is a concept album, so any idea that wasn't directly related to the concept, you know, like, okay, that goes to Death Dealer. And then going on to the third Death Dealer project, the third Death Dealer project is going to be kind of a concept thing too. So, and then Cage will probably revert back to a traditional album. So I'll have that. That will definitely help me from the idea department. But, you know, I'll come up with a riff in my head and I'm like going, ooh, you know, what do we do? What do we do for that? But Stu and Ross write so much stuff that, you know, I probably contribute more. You know, I write a lot of riffs just by going dun 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 dun, and that kind of thing. And I've done definitely a lot of that, more of that for Cage than Death Dealer, but still done a pretty significant part for Death Dealer too. But it's interesting, and now that, you know, there's going to be probably a third and fourth project that, you know, that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess.
It's going to be busy.
Yeah.
But we love it. Keep it coming.
Cool.
Okay, our podcast is me. I'm an 80s metal fan versus Gomthog. He's sort of the modern progressive metal type. And this is one of the reasons why I really love your band, Cage especially, and the Death Dealer. You were there for the in-between phase, late 90s to the 2000s. Just briefly tell us how you got started, because I love the grassroots part of your popularity, of how you came up through a time when metal was supposedly gone, and you, I hate to say it, but you defended the faith, brother. So talk about Unahort and then getting to where you are now.
You see,
yes.
that is
nailed to the gun.
That was the I'm holding up a Fight pin.
Yeah.
The band
Looks
Fight.
cool.
That was kind of the blueprint for Cage. We had, you know, my band Nomad and Dave band's Crusher were kind of, you know, traditional heavy metal, power metal bands. Both were really good. You know, we're kind of rivals in San Diego. And then they both kind of fragmented apart at the same time. So Dave, you know, kind of had a band going, and then I went over to sing with them. And we started putting it together, and Dave was, you know, is a big muscle monster, and people are like, you're going to get in a band with that guy? You're crazy. He's crazy. And I go, man, I'm not afraid, dude. You know, so that was the key to our success. Is, I mean, we, you know, we wanted to still wear leather and spikes and still do screaming heavy metal, but the Fight thing was a little more raw and a little, you know, heavier. So that was our kind of concept. And then locally, we were able to play just humongous shows because there was like a power vacuum, and we were one of the only like metal bands left. And I was really working the scene really hard with the promoters, and they knew that if they booked, you know, I'm a salesman too, so that didn't hurt. They knew that if they booked us, you know, they were going to move a lot of tickets. And that's, for anybody listening out there, that's all these promoters care about. They don't care if you're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. If you sell 100 tickets, they're just like, yeah, dude, you're awesome. Bring it on. Bring it on. So a lot of hard work went into it, but I mean, we were able to open for Maiden, frickin' Priest, Scorpions, even bands like Great White. You were drawing like still like 1,000 people, you know, in these huge venues down here, and we weren't really that good at all. I mean, this was like started in '92, they're like 90, you know, 6, 7. And we just had some just humongous, amazing shows, simply because, I was working the scene so hard, and we were one of the only, guys flying the flag and defending the faith, like you said. So, like, it was a real secret to our success. We had to become good quick, or, you're opening up for, it was Cage, Dio, and Maiden. I mean, we walked that stage.
Yeah.
To the left
Cool.
was the backstage room said Dio, the middle one was Cage, the right one was Maiden, and we were just hanging in the dressing room with Iron Maiden, going, "Dude, it's never going to get any better than this." And and that just, when they go, well, "What advice do you have for bands up and coming?" Like, it's just play what you want to play. Forget any trend, forget any style. Just like, play it from the heart. And if you think it's awesome, just go with it and let the chips fall where they may. And that's kind of what we did. And when we finally got to release Unveiled, which was '98, as we've been a band 6 years, and we did a record, but we never released it. I think it's on digital somewhere, called the Lost Album. But we had a new guitar player. We recorded Unveiled, had a lot better songs, and that thing like took off on its own, just because there was all these heavy metal fans that were just dying to have this true metal album like that. And I mean, we were selling. There were people in Europe that were like mailing us envelopes full of cash, just like $100 bills, in the mail. Just like, I remember opening like $2,000 in cash from this one record label. I'm like, dude, that's how you guys do business? You just send an envelope full of cash. And it just, the time was right, and we won the Best New Band of the Year competition by some guy in Europe, Jürgen Schemmler. Submitted us to the Rock Hard magazine, which we didn't even know existed until I got a call like, "Hello, Sean. This is Klaus from Rock Hard. You have won the contest." And I'm like, someone's playing a joke on me. Who is calling me? And
a German joke.
Next thing you know, we're playing, at the Dynamo Festival with Metallica and Manowar. It's like the incredible lineup that year. And that's that's what started everything, just by sticking to your guns. And now we're some 20 plus years later, we're on album number 7, and we've managed to maintain a following, and right now there's something going on with Cage right now. There's like this, we're getting calls from out of the blue, and so we've managed to put some roots in the underground. I think we've got some respect in the scene.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, I would love to hear Cage's version of "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Could we do that at some point? That'd be cool.
Mary. So.
All right. Let's do a little lightning round real quick. Sort of a one-sentence answer.
Lightning round.
Yes. Who's your vocal icon? We're going to put effects around your head while this goes on, so don't worry about how you look. We're good.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Who's your vocal icon?
Halford, of course. I mean, that's easy.
Yeah. How do you get up for a show when you're having a bad day?
I'm not a big guy. I'm not big on depression. I'm always pretty much a happy guy, so I don't have a lot of bad days. And I do have this weird thing where I get quiet like 30, 45 minutes before the show. I just like, I'm a big loudmouth the rest of the time, and then all of a sudden I shut down, and then I hit the stage, and you know what happens after that.
Excellent. Yeah, laser beam focus. Favorite Marvel hero?
Silver Surfer. Not even a hesitation.
Seriously? Silver Surfer. Without hesitation, huh? You think he's the most powerful?
Of course. The power cosmic.
I think Wolverine could kick his ass, but that's another podcast.
Who?
Wolverine.
Wolverine could kick his ass. Come on, guy. He would just turn his molecules into frickin' space dust with
Yes, if you like that kind of thing. So you played Dungeons & Dragons. That's cool. You answered that one earlier. I know Stu Marshall told me to ask you why he's the greatest guitarist in the world.
Probably because he's working with such a great vocalist songwriter. He calls me and him the modern day Lennon and McCartney. That's what that's
great. That's freaking great. I'm interviewing him on Monday night, our time. Now, do a quick yes or no here if you want. UFOs.
UFO what?
Yes or no? Believe yes.
Absolutely. I'm a UFO freak, man. I'll sit there for hours watching videos.
Yeah, I saw you put up the cigar on your Facebook page.
I finally saw a UFO like a month ago. I tried filming it. It was right over San Diego. Then 3 vertical lights. I called my neighbor. It was like midnight. I go, Pete. He's like, yeah. I go, you want to see some UFO stuff? He's like, yeah. I go, come out. And he met me out in the street, man. We watched this thing for like 20 minutes.
I'd say that's a big yes. Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. I'm going to probably say yes, just because there's so many credible sightings. even though they haven't found a body, which is very, very strange. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
great evidence for any of this stuff, but why not? Let's do
Sure. Loch Ness.
Loch Ness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that Loch Ness is probably real.
All right.
Sea monsters are easy.
The Pick of Destiny.
The Pick of Destiny is not real.
Not real. Obamacare. I know you're
Obamacare,
gonna answer this.
unfortunately, is real.
Oh, yes, it's real. All right, just real quick, the final two
I
questions.
mean, I don't know if you call if nightmares are considered real, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
I've
cool. I won't
been,
make
on
you.
Obamacare, I've been talking to, I've been talking to this guy who's full on, insurance guy. He says at the end of 2014, when they see the math on this, how upside down it is. I mean, everything's great and everything, but when they see how many people are getting subsidized and the money it's going to cost, they're going to go, we need to print some more money, like quick.
Yeah, I noticed in some of your posts that you have a bit of a conservative slant on certain things, so I thought I'd throw that in there.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. Anything you've ever been wanted to ask, or you've ever wanted someone to ask you that they haven't in an interview?
Yeah, like one people say, I heard you're one of the greatest ping pong players in California.
Okay, Sean, I've heard that you're one of the greatest ping pong players in California. Is this true?
I'm ready to try out for the Olympics, man. I recently got very, very, very good at ping pong. I was already amazing, but I was able to spend some time practicing seriously against some Vietnamese guys, and yeah, I played a lot of soccer too. I played Division I in San Diego State, and was the first guy to ever snowboard in Alaska, and was the Bear Mountain Big Air champion in '91 and '92.
Wow, excellent!
I got some accomplishments, man.
I love ping pong. You should come out to Kentucky and we'll play ping pong and D&D. It'd be an awesome thing.
I played, not just D&D, but I played, the fantasy trip was like this next one next to D&D. I played Champions, which was a superhero one. I played Traveler. I played frickin' Top Secret. All the Avalon Hill board games, all the war simulation games, Squad Leader, Panzer Blitz. I mean,
right.
So
you had to join two bands to get chicks, obviously, because that wasn't happening a lot with your.
I have such a charming personality. I was like the only guy playing D&D that actually got chicks.
There you go.
I was voted class flirt in high school like 2 years in a row. I mean, there's chicks is one of my specialties.
All right, just tell us what's coming up for Cage and Death Dealer real quick.
Cage, we're probably 75% done with the new record. The new record's called Ancient Evil. Yes. I wrote a 45,000 word mini novel of this horror story. I was jammed up to do a band with 3 of the ex-King Diamond guys, and so I started writing this story. Like, well, let's do a horror concept. I was kind of writing it for that, and then that thing fell apart, and I ended up looking at the story, this story's badass. I need to use this for Cage. Forget this. And so a few years later, I just kept tinkering on it, and now it's done, and we decided to go for it. And there's some some voice acting parts in it, and it's 1869, London, England, very, very much H.P. Lovecraft influenced. And also influenced by my millions of hours playing video games. Excellent. And it's there's the book's gonna ship with some versions of the record, and it's gonna be real King Diamond vibe, and it's definitely concept albums are very hard to get right. So many people. Yeah. We did Hell the Story, we got that one right, but so many people make concept records and they're just they just don't do it. So I don't like to do a lot of nebulous, leave too much for the imagination. I like to be literal and this is the story and this is what I want you to understand. And so, and we got this new lineup with Cage. We have Casey Trask on guitar, Sean Elge on drums, Dwight Magic on the bass. Killer new lineup, and they're all about it. And so we've been just recording and writing, and it's still fast, and it's so far so good. And we're going to be doing a tour to support that record in Europe in July. So we got a couple festivals. We're back on the festival circuit out there, which is really cool. And then we're going to do the East Coast. Maybe we can get by to Kentucky. East Coast in November.
Diamond Pub in Louisville. That's a great venue.
I'll have to write that down. Diamond Pub in where? Louisville?
In Louisville, Kentucky.
Diamond Pub. I'm writing it down right now. And then
excellent.
We're going to be doing some Mexico, too. So Cage is, going strong, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, cool.
And then Death Dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a 4-day or 5 days, I leave for like, the biggest tour of my life. It's minor little. There's going to be like an arena tour, 9 dates, Eastern Europe, Moscow, Russia, frickin'
Yeah,
Istanbul, Turkey. I mean, crazy. Opening up for the Metal All Stars, which I'm going to be hanging out with Zakk Wylde and Vince Neil. It's going to be quite surreal.
yeah.
And we're looking just to fricking lay down the gauntlet with just supreme power. And then, like I said, we're pretty much, we only have like 2 more songs to kind of finish up for the Death Dealer record.
Yeah.
Mark Sasso's doing the artwork for that again. The cover's almost done. And then we plan on doing a tour in Europe in September, in Western Europe. And right after that, probably while we're on this tour, we're going to be writing a lot for the next, the third release
Third
of
album,
Death Dealer. Because that was when we started this band. We're like, we're going to put stuff out like quick, man. We're going to just keep coming out with a product. And the first one did really, really good. And man, the fans just really embraced it. And the pre-order packages were a big success. And we're working right now to try and get more creative ideas on what we can put in this new pre-order package, and for both Cage and Death Dealer. And anyone that's bought stuff from us knows that it's just like tons of value. I mean, we just cram so much in there. People are like, I can't believe you're putting all this stuff in there. So, and that's, I just think about all this stuff from as a fan perspective. What do you want to see? And I was just like, if Priest put out this kind of package, a sketch art book with like liner notes on all about the songs and how they wrote them and what's coming up next. I mean, I would have been loving that stuff. And so I'm just, trying to think of things that I would like as a fan and as a comic book nerd and a Dungeons and Dragons player, and then put it in the package.
Very cool. Okay, where can fans get merchandise and music for both your bands, for Cage and Death Dealer?
Cage is cageheavymetal.com, cageheavymetal.com. And we're rebooting up the site again. We're redoing the site to make it a little prettier. And then deathdealer.co. We couldn't get deathdealer.com. I think they wanted $48,000 for the name. I'm like, you know what? Wow. I'll just do deathdealer.co, and that extra M is not worth the $50,000 to me. So so deathdealer.co, and we're like I said, we're just making new music and getting out on the road and trying to rule the earth through the power, not the power cosmic, but the power of heavy metal.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of Gomthog and myself, I want to thank Sean Peck of Cage and Death Dealer. I want to thank the listeners, and I think we're out, Sean. I appreciate it very much.
Brian, good interview, man. That was fun.